the mountain guides of the German Bundeswehr. They are among the best elite units worldwide for operations in high-altitude terrain. To survive in these regions, they must complete one of the toughest training programs in the Bundeswehr. Temperatures reach -30 degrees Celsius. Wind speeds soar to 120 kilometers per hour, and they operate on peaks up to 5,000 meters.
I think they'll be relieved when this is over. I doubt they're really enjoying it here.
In the next 9 months, these men must climb the equivalent altitude of summiting Mount Everest 10 times. Their motto, at any time of year, in any terrain, on rock, ice, and snow, in peace and in action. The guiding principle of their actions is to always be able to stand proud before themselves. However, to be accepted into this elite unit, soldiers must endure a demanding path ahead. In the Karwendel barracks in Bavarian Mittenwald, 11 out of 18 men have made it into the course. Staff Sergeant Blaueis is among them. Captain Schumacher has also made it. Master Sergeant Wagner has impressed so far. Captain Baumert also fought his way into the course. The only female applicant failed in the first week. At the foot of the Blaueis Glacier, the training for alpine climbing begins. In idyllic nature with mountains as high as 2,600 meters, training leader Grillhassel wants to see full performance.
Training section Alpine Climbing Basics, that's what I call this training section, lasts almost 2 weeks. We are in the so-called Blaueis area, and we are accommodated at the Blaueis hut at 1,680 meters. That is our base, providing the advantage that we have extremely short paths to the climbing routes and the training sites. The purpose of this stay, to make the leap from the Franconian Jura, from sport climbing to alpine climbing. The training content here includes constructing belay stations, teaching the rope team process, and immediately applying it in climbing routes, specifically in alpine climbing routes.
In the mountains, the soldiers feel at home. However, their home is a small mountain hut. The Blaueis hut serves the soldiers not only as a base for climbing tours in the coming days, but also as accommodation. Quick wash at the communal bathroom. Sleeping in a dormitory with 15 men in a cramped room that also functions as a laundry room. For days, the soldiers live without privacy. After all, they did not come here for vacation. First up is Captain Baumert. Today, he has the task of safely leading 4 comrades through the mountains. One of them is Instructor Rauschenberger, a strict examiner in climbing. Baumert has to find the right route, lead the climb, and set the anchors correctly. His comrades must be able to rely on him fully at all times, because these safety measures save their lives in an emergency. Besides the physical exertion of climbing, it is vital to stay alert and focused. Instructor Rauschenberger wants to see precise work.
In the end, it's about leading the route under relatively simple conditions with only climbing gear and securing it as best as possible for the person following.
Baumert is still optimistic.
For warming up, it's pretty good. There are already a few wet spots in there, but the first pitch is rated something like a 4, which is fine so far. I think the exciting parts are still to come. So far, I'm still doing well. The weather is quite varied. Not much luck in the past 2 days, but otherwise, it's fine. I mean, showering every 3 days is more than enough. But yeah, it's fun to finally be out in the field doing something.
Now he needs to focus. No mistakes allowed.
Nee, das ist dann halt mal so. Aber ja, aber mit einem Seil hilft mir nichts.
Now, it's time to optimize during the training tours, and if that starts from the next stay in the leadership tours, then it's no longer in the safe zone. So it becomes a 6 when safety is at risk, just like right now.
Baumert made a mistake. A safety sling was wrongly placed and would not have held in the event of a fall. A life-threatening error that the trainers cannot forgive.
The climbing was okay. Today it is not that easy because everything is still a bit damp, especially at the belay station. So I'll just say he eventually noticed himself that he had only clipped one of the 2 ropes into the safety. It was a good idea, but unfortunately not thought through to the end. Yeah, no, we will face the consequences, so if this happens more often with participants, then the course is over for him.
Failing a tour is almost always directly related to whether safety-relevant mistakes were made. If it's a strict test tour, then that's it. That's how it is. But he won't make the mistake again. That's why we do practice tours.
Will Grillhosel be right about it? Baumert must keep going, not give up. The instructors are dissatisfied.
The course is shifting a bit now. By shifting, I mean that this input phase, which comes from me and the instructors, is decreasing. And this performance assessment from the course participant increases. That means they plan the tours, interpret weather forecasts, determine the routes. The participant must set up intermediate anchors. They lead the whole day. They are in charge.
That's not how Baumert imagined it. Right on the first tour, he made a mistake that must not happen again. Otherwise, he would not pass the course. Now, he doesn't have time to think about it. He hasn't led his team to the summit yet, and giving up is not an option. Baumert is not the type for that. Step by step, he climbs the steep rock walls.
It was an exciting endeavor, as it was very treacherous terrain. But I have a good partner in the rope team. You can really rely on that. Steadiness is important here, as well as quick reactions. There shouldn't be too much slack in the rope. You really have to watch every step you take, and then it goes well. There will certainly be more challenging terrain ahead, which will also be interesting.
The final steps to the summit. Baumert made it.
That tour was quite demanding. Maybe I could push a bit more, but you don't always want to test the limits right away. Especially with responsibility, you should choose the right terrain, where you're not climbing at your absolute limit, because then you can't manage to guide your second partner. So I think the terrain was just right for me to handle it safely. I hope my limits won't be tested too often.
We don't do tours like the one we did today as much in our free time. Naturally, the risk increases and the enjoyment isn't as much. You have to constantly watch out, brittle rock, some unpleasant climbing. You don't really do it so gladly. Overall, we had many small problems. Like, there's still quite a bit to do, but it was a decent tour. so many little things. There's still a lot to work on, and you need a lot of time for that. Small things weren't solved optimally, but overall we were safe, especially with the climbing, and now we're on the right path.
After his mistake, Baumert had a good run. However, the mistake should not be repeated. Back at the Blaueis hut, the evening before his tour, Staff Sergeant Blaueis just needs to brief his comrades, who will climb with him tomorrow on the route.
For the troop formation tomorrow, we'll first be in the rope team. Me, Shubi, Jay, and Jonas. Here's our situation for tomorrow. The weather tomorrow morning. It should still be nice. From the afternoon, it will be cloudy and rain is expected. Let's go outside again. With a view of the area, I'll briefly tell you something about the route. Where it is located, where the entrance and exit are.
Richtung Gipfel sieht man in unterem Bereich so leichten schwarzen, also nasse Wand, schwarze nasse Wand. Dort wird sein unser erster Standplatz, von dem wir aus sichern werden.
The briefing was very flawed. Yes, looking at the terrain and the route is one thing, but there were many details and pointers missing.
Blaueis is disappointed. This increases the pressure for tomorrow even more.
Thankfully, this is a practice run now, not in the sense of a full-scale tour, but even then there's some clear excitement.
The soldiers are unlucky once again. Clouds gather and the weather changes overnight. The next morning, it rains non-stop. In the sleeping quarters, the soldiers sleep lined up like sardines. A restful sleep is out of the question. This makes the training to become an army mountain guide even harder. Only slowly do they struggle out of their sleeping bags. Slowly, all the soldiers wake up. Time for the bathroom. When everyone is awake, it gets very crowded there. Blaueis did not sleep well.
It was hard to sleep somehow. It rained and you could hear it really loud on the skylight. But otherwise, as usual.
The young staff sergeant prepared for the tour late into the night. After the failed briefing, he wants to do better today. It's still unclear if the tour will happen at all due to the weather.
Also das hält ja oft nur mal dann hier im Osten, sage ich mal, vom deutschen Alpenraum ein bisschen länger her als jetzt im Westen. Und das war natürlich die Hoffnung. Im Westen muss der Führer ja Entscheidungen treffen und das ist eigentlich das, wo man ranbringen will.
Here, the course participants, when they stand there in the morning giving the preliminary orders, you can already see that they are very nervous. They stand in the pulpit all day, have to guide the instructor and the classroom leader on the rope, and are challenged all day in the pulpit. The nervousness is definitely visible.
The rain has let up a little and the soldiers are starting their patrol. Blaueis is tense. It will be a difficult patrol under poor conditions.
Blaueis is going with the examiner Shubi into the Great Chimney, making very good progress, moving fairly quickly. I assume they will be at the exit in 1.5 to 2 hours. Looks good from here.
Even the group around Blaueis is still moving safely along the steep and wet rock walls. Nevertheless, they are placing so-called friends, intermediate protections that can save your life in the event of a fall. Instructor Schubert warns the soldiers about the loose rock. Suddenly, a stone breaks loose and flies directly toward them. The rock misses the rope team by a hair's breadth. A rock fall can be fatal or cause serious injuries. They were lucky, but the soldiers are warned and set up more intermediate protections. But then, it happens. A soldier ends up falling. Comrade Lengemann fell almost 10 meters straight down the wall before his placed friend caught him.
Was praying the friend would hold me, otherwise this would have been a long fall.
Hey Lengemann, alles in Ordnung? Du hast einen ganz schönen Sturz gemacht, ne? Ja, alles gut. Fuck man, das war ein Riesenhenkel jetzt schon wieder. Fluggi, alles gut, bleib stehen. Ja, alles gut. Ey, du musst langsamer, alles ganz langsam belassen. Du dürfst auch Henkel nicht vollziehen.
And as you saw with Jonas, he made the right decision to put in the friend. Otherwise, it would have ended worse.
Irgendwo in dem... Da. Riesengroßer Fleck, weiß ich nicht. 15 auf 30 Zentimeter.
Bloss needs to make a decision now.
We are calling it off. Jonas pulled out a boulder and partially fell down with it. One must not break out in panic, because otherwise, the situation might get out of hand. You still need to stay focused and not jump to conclusions.
Lengemann is visibly distressed. Bloss makes the right decision as Lengemann needs medical attention.
2 Meter oder was über dem letzten Friend gestanden. Der hat gut gehalten. Bin halt trotzdem ganz schön unten eingeschlagen, weil es halt echt unschönes Sturzgelände ist. Ja, jetzt bin halt bis hier noch nachgestiegen. Aber gut geht's mir gerade nicht.
Lass den Arm draußen. Komm, den Arm dahin.
Now we will make sure that we take Jonas down and let a doc have a look at him.
Du nimmst einen Schubi rein. Ans kurze Seil. Binden Jonas direkt ein und wir gehen sofort los.
The soldiers realize that their job is life-threatening.
Primarily the leader, when leading a group of people, already has a certain tension. And because of that fall, the tension got even worse. And then, of course, through the training we provide to the course participants, they might also understand the dangers that come with mountaineering, and maybe only now truly realize what it really means to climb at the sharp end of the rope. And that might actually be a good thing, that they become a bit more thoughtful.
Bloss leads his team safely down the mountain. He's not worried about his grade today. He's glad it didn't turn out worse. But how bad Lengemann's injury is, the doctor has to determine first.
All right, so I can't feel anything wrong with the bone for now, which is the good news. Nevertheless, as a precaution, We should have it x-rayed tomorrow after the descent. From the looks of it now, I think the bursa might have taken a bit of a hit. We will put a bandage on it for now, and I think it should get a lot better. Keep your arms still, don't do much, hold back on climbing for the next few days. If you ignore it now, that's probably going to be it.
The shock for Lengemann runs deep. Will he be able to continue participating in the course? Instructor Schubert calls for a report.
The route was generally bad because it had a lot of rockfall. Personally, I wouldn't have even started this route.
From my perspective, I was actually pretty safe. I checked everything, tested every step again, felt really secure while climbing, and was extremely surprised when that flake or block came off. I am really glad that I did it this way, which was developed in the last few days, that even at an easy level, if you feel safe, you place plenty of intermediate safeguards. I really didn't feel good there because I was scared.
What I didn't really like, but with everyone, is how you control kicks and grips. I think I mentioned 2 or 3 times. Slow down the tapping. You're doing it too hard. I go there and slowly let it come from my calf and see how it moves. Then I first check if it moves with just the slow tapping. Then I increase the pressure just a little. That's all. This is how I check the stone, especially the step. I noted that as test gate 2, and that would be the grade 3.
But the grade doesn't matter. What's most important to him is that everyone gets down from the mountain safely. In the evening, he is very quiet and reflective. He has to think about his family, his wife, and their 2 small children.
The course participants do change over the 4 months in summer. They become calmer and perhaps more thoughtful. This can have several factors. For one, naturally, the strain of the course. We've been away for almost 5 weeks now. Being apart from home, from family, from one's partner, from the children. My wife knows too, I told her. If anything happened to me, then she would get a call from one of my superiors personally. And if she doesn't get a call, then she doesn't need to worry.
A tough day comes to an end. The next morning, only the descent from the hut remains. However, Lengemann did not get better overnight.
Gestern noch besser angefühlt als heute.
Okay, tut's mehr weh?
Ja.
Ist auch weiter geschwollen oder?
Ich glaube nicht, nee. Ich glaube nicht.
Okay. Schauen wir uns mal an. Von den Schmerzen warst du erträglich über Nacht?
Ja, ich habe gestern Abend die Schmerztablette genommen gehabt. Aber dann, zweite Nachthälfte bin ich schon ein paar Mal aufgewacht, weil ich irgendwie Schmerzen hat.
Ja, müssen wir auf jeden Fall nochmal nachschauen. Wir müssen auf jeden Fall ausschließen, dass da ein Bruch mit im Spiel ist.
Next week, it certainly won't be easy getting into the circle with the ice equipment. That will now become part of the stock. So his bursa will either stay, or if he's unlucky, they need to take it out, and then next year, he can make another attempt.
All the course participants are glad to have Blaueis behind them. They managed tough tours and bad weather. Now, with 30 kilograms of gear, they head back to the barracks.
For the training course participants, Blaueis is coming to an end. But this also means that the climbing training on the rock is concluding. And the next time we are purely on rock, it will be in the Sella in September. Next week, we are first heading to the Taschach House in the Ötztal Alps in Austria, where we will conduct ice training as preparation for the major stay in Chamonix. And we will be primarily on ice and snow in Chamonix, or on combined tours. Then we will also be in the Mont Blanc Massif, where altitude is a factor. Most tours are all over 4,000 meters, so you need to be well acclimatized or really tolerate the altitude well, as it is very physically demanding. And I'll say it like this. Chamonix is famous for a reason. It's simply the mecca for climbers, and there are many demanding long routes there.
They kept their promise. The soldiers are on their way to the next training segment to become Army mountain guides. The Mont Blanc Massif in the French Alps, with peaks up to 4,800 meters, the highest in Europe. This will be a tough exam section. Not everyone will successfully complete this stay. The first test is ice climbing. With crampons and an ice axe, the soldiers must scale icy glacier walls. The examiners grade rigorously.
I actually said at the beginning that this would probably be a short and sweet part. And it was, in my opinion.
In such inhospitable terrain, you must trust yourself and your equipment. Determination and confident movement are crucial here. However, most of the course participants appear anything but confident. The instructors have to start over again. Instructor Schubert shows the soldiers how it's done. His conclusion is sobering.
I'm really frustrated when the quality and standards are falling off, and we have to start over from scratch every time.
The instructors are worried. The soldiers' poor skill level poses a risk for the upcoming tours. If someone falls into such a crevasse, it could mean death.
Well, you know, when you move in Alpine terrain, you are aware that it involves danger. We are trained in this field, so we can minimize the sources of danger. However, you can't rule them out completely.
Captain Baumert, unfortunately, did not manage to minimize the dangers. Off camera, he repeated his safety-related mistake from the Blaueis. As a result, he will not pass this difficult part of the training. He can continue with the rest of the course, but he must repeat this part, a significant setback on the path to becoming an Army mountain guide. The instructors were not proven right.
Nächsten Aufenthalt in die Führungstouren ist, dann ist es nimmer im grünen Bereich. Also dann wird es 6.
Aber wird den Fehler nicht wieder machen.
Even training director Grillhosel does not.
Captain Baumert got his first guided tour from the Torino hut. Across the Rochefort Ridge or over the Rochefort Ridge, to the Aiguille Rochefort, and then back. And then, because it was just too short, we went on another rock tour and he made 2 safety mistakes there. That is completely unacceptable and there's nothing to discuss. So he did not pass the tour. I've been upset about it for long enough now. What's more important is learning from it, drawing your conclusions, and being able to apply them correctly later on.
The next morning, it continues straight away. Guided tours are on the agenda. The mountain guide needs to safely lead his team through the high mountains. All the content learned so far will be tested during these tours.
We are here at the base station of the Aiguille du Midi cable lift. It will take us up to 3,800 meters. The plan for today is to do the Cosmiques Ridge, which will then bring us back to the summit of the Aiguille du Midi. The guide will certainly do a lot of leading on a short rope, and at the difficult sections, he will throw down his working rope, and will alternately climb secured or free climb, securing the follower from behind. In terms of guiding technique, he has a lot to do, despite the short length of the rope. The Cosmic Ridge is not difficult. It's definitely an adequate tour. Anyone who can't make it up there, he is out of place with us. Cosmic Grad is conducted daily by the Chamonix mountain guides with guests from all over the world. And the Army mountain guide must be able to lead this grade safely and quickly.
Today, Master Sergeant Wagner has to prove himself.
Tomorrow morning, when we get up, we might not fully feel the responsibility yet. I think once the carabiner clicks and you've got your partner on the rope, then it really hits you. In the past few days, we have already guided each other. The responsibility is quite high there.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I know Jens. I know what he's capable of, where he stands, and I'm pretty sure I won't be endangered.
The strict instructor Rieger is conducting the examination today.
I'm scared for my life, and accordingly, it's being checked. If they don't all bring it, then there will be consequences.
In the valley, it's 21 degrees Celsius. Up here at a good 3,800 meters, it's only -3. Nevertheless, many tourists gather here and want to climb the highest mountain in Europe. But this altitude is not every day for the soldiers either.
When you first arrive, you might feel short of breath after taking a few quick steps. You need to get used to the 3,800 meters and start by taking a few slower steps.
How slowly things will progress today, Wagner does not yet realize. He needs to prepare his climbing gear and is having some issues with it. However, he is aware of the risks.
Mach jetzt normale, weil so kannst du dich führen hier mit der Scheiße auf.
Certainly in the mountains, there are so many objective dangers where you sometimes can't rule out rock falls, ice falls. I can't avoid them, but I can move in such a way or choose the route smartly to maybe minimize them. And somehow, like this, the strategy or good training keeps risks under control as much as possible.
Wagner's tour begins. Clouds are gathering. One must always pay attention to the weather. If you get caught in a snowstorm at this altitude, no one can help you. Step by step, the rope team struggles over narrow cliffs and steep, snowy rocks. Wagner is moving quickly and safely. So far, everything is going well. Until the soldiers encounter the tourist climbers. They're blocking the only route. Wagner has to pause and cannot maintain his rhythm. The soldiers are annoyed. Traffic jam at 4,000 meters.
We had actually planned it so that we would start later and all the hustle and bustle here would be gone, so that we have a clear path. But since it also rained 3 times now, it somehow didn't quite work out. Now it's difficult. Up ahead, it's even tighter. Now we come to the 2 real abseiling spots. And that's also a jam. There are still 50 people standing there. Right here during my guided tour, it was already a bit off-putting. Especially because there are so many uninformed, unknowledgeable, and poorly equipped people in the broken mountain range. In Chamonix, they say there is at least 1 death per day. Such statistics support what we have seen.
However, as an army mountain guide, it is essential to stay calm and lead your comrades safely.
Yes, it has settled in. At the beginning, it was really a bit, I don't know, frustrating.
Get the average of 1 death per day out of your mind. A hard test for the psyche. Wagner must carry on. Instructor Rieger wants to see belaying techniques. Wagner has to secure his comrade while rappelling and must not make any mistakes. Wagner is an experienced mountaineer, but today he seems hectic, almost nervous. The trainer is not satisfied. Wagner needs to correct that. This costs him valuable time and potentially points as well. How will the instructor evaluate the whole situation?
He's a little nervous. He's generally a bit jittery. You could see it a couple of times in the beginning. But otherwise, what he's showing is fine. There is not much flow here. Always the damming, the blocking, the waiting. Restarting and the flow falls a bit. I don't find that very optimal now.
Wagner has to hurry. The weather is getting worse. Freezing rain is making climbing extremely unpleasant.
Yes, and then the guide gets a bit nervous at the beginning because he wasn't familiar with it like that. They did tell him that it would be like this and that he needed to be quick, but he got a little nervous. But, well, it'll work out.
The final meters for Wagner and his comrades. His tour didn't go as he imagined. At the end, a shaky ladder awaits in freezing rain. For some climbers, more challenging than a steep rock face. But another hurdle towards the badge has been overcome.
Yes, that was actually quite annoying. You never really got into the flow. All this waiting and stopping, thinking about what to do next.
Tour war soweit in Ordnung, war gut. Es hat zum Westalpen-Feeling gehabt, mit Menschenmassen. Ja, das war irgendwie anders. Das war irgendwie anders.
The very next morning, the soldiers face another test. High in the peaks of the Mont Blanc Massif, shrouded in clouds.
We are up here in the Grand Monte area at about 3,000 meters. It's mid to late July. In Germany, it is summer. A cold front has passed, resulting in a lot of fresh snow. Perfect weather for a mountain rescue test. What are we doing here? We have a large glacier crevasse. We will build a backup anchor there. The course participants will jump into the crevasse, be brought to the same height, and then must perform a self-rescue from the crevasse using the so-called mountain guide method. All of this will be timed. The mountain rescue exam here, this ice section, is also graded. The pressure of being graded is present and noticeable among the participants, and they get slightly nervous.
The tension is palpable. The soldiers are becoming calmer and more focused.
Yes, I am already a bit excited. Above all, it will be terribly exhausting soon. Because let me say, it's not just the technology and handling of all the things, worrying about dropping them. It will be really exhausting soon. Today, it is only snowing. Yesterday, it rained the whole day during training. So the weather is actually much better than yesterday. Accidents don't happen in good weather. Accidents mostly happen when I'm tired and under bad conditions. We have bad weather now, so we're doing the test now.
Only secured by a rope, the soldiers lower themselves into the glacier crevasse. If they fall now, the glacier would simply swallow them. No one knows exactly how deep these crevasses are. Another reason why a mountain army guide should be able to rescue themselves from such a situation. If they can't save themselves, how can they save others?
The conditions are clear for everyone. Now, once you start, you can begin working. Time stops when both feet are out of the top gap. It's important to remember the system switches to the mountain guide method when rebuilt. Now take a deep breath, consider what you want to do. Everyone is set. From our side, we wish you success and go for it. If everyone is ready, on your marks, get set, go.
From now on, the participants have 10 minutes to free themselves from the crevasse. It's an absolute challenge. If someone doesn't manage it, they've failed this test. It would be a major setback on the path to becoming an army mountain guide. The instructors cheer on the soldiers. The absolute determination helps with this task. Some soldiers are having trouble with the required technique. Two soldiers haven't made it yet, Langemann and Schumacher. A hellish feat.
Der verfickte Gott! Ich rutsch raus! Mann!
Langemann is out. Now Schumacher is alone. A battle against exhaustion, cold, and the relentless ticking clock of the instructor.
Oh Mann! Das ist doch so einfach!
The final 10 seconds. Still, he can make it. Time's up. The instructors have Schumacher pulled from the crevasse. He didn't make it on his own.
In front of all the other course participants, I don't want to say it's disgraceful, but it is a failure somehow. Everyone is watching, cheering him on, and he can't get out. And he needs to get out. He wants to become a mountain guide, and he has to get out. And I just hope that it never, never truly happens that he falls in and can't get out.
Schumacher is completely exhausted. He barely feels his hands and legs anymore. A severe setback for him. He gave it his all, but this time both his body and nerves failed.
Everyone has a bad performance now and then. It's done and recorded. I have to forget it and move on. That's important. Just look ahead. There are so many more exams, and these weren't the first failings today. I won't be their therapist. They have to get through it themselves.
But are all soldiers truly suited for the elite unit of Army mountain guides?